Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Broken Brains with your host, Bruce Parkman, sponsored by the Mac Parkman Foundation, where we look at the issue of repetitive brain trauma from two aspects: repetitive head impacts from contact sports and repetitive blast exposure from military service, and what these conditions are doing to the brain health and mental health of our athletes, veterans, and children. And why is this so important? This is not trained in our medical, nursing, or psychological or psychiatric professions. Nobody's aware of these of the connections between repetitive brain trauma and mental illness. So we go out there and we find everybody we can and bring you this podcast in order for you to be informed and make informed decisions. On our show today, another great guest and military service member, Master Sergeant Colin James Lightfoot, was born September 9th, 1985 in Lakenheath, England, and enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2005. He graduated the Special Forces Qualification Course in 2009 as an engineer sergeant and served with the 10th Special Forces Group Airborne in multiple operational and leadership roles, culminating as a team sergeant of ODA 0325 from 2021 to 2024. Over his career, he deployed 8 times in support of combat and contingency operations, including Iraq and Afghanistan. His military education includes the Ranger School tab, his military free fall and combat diver qualifications. Whiskey Niner, not a lot of those people around.
Yeah.
And Whiskey Niner, right? And his awards include the Bronze Star Medal, Purple Heart, and Meritorious Service Medal. He lives in Monument, Colorado, with his wife, Rachel, and their 2 sons. Master Sergeant Lightfoot, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a privilege and an honor. I appreciate it.
Excited, man. We love having our special operations guys there, particularly Green Berets. I'm just kind of biased here a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll let you know that. So when you joined in 2005, did you go to the X-ray program? I didn't even know it was around back then.
I did. So I had an interesting past, got in quite a bit of trouble as an young adult, and found myself in and out of the penal system there. So I quickly joined the military, but I was from an Air Force community. So I joined the Air Force and spent about a year and a half or a year doing that, and realized quickly I needed that structure, but maybe not the right service. So I switched over to the Army quickly after that, and then went X-ray. Originally went in infantry, but had a drill sergeant who was a GB at the time from 110, and he was kind of my first mentor in the military to kind of give me that nudge to meet the full extent of potential there. So I went X-ray into the pipeline.
Good for him. I don't think I've ever heard of it. Well, I can't say I've never met a Green Beret drill sergeant. I know that when I was a team sergeant and then a sergeant major, there were a lot of efforts trying to get SF guys to go into either the recruiting commands or to go down to be a drill sergeant, man. So that's great. So
he was one of very few, and I was lucky enough to kind of have that encounter right off the bat. So it really was the precipice of kind of shaping my direction in the military. So
yeah, all you need is one good swift kick in the butt, man, send you in the right direction.
You ain't lying there.
Yeah, dude. Oh, good on you, man. So, would you go through basic training? Fort Benning?
Fort Benning, went through basic training there. I was supposed to be going to the 25th in Hawaii when I got my orders cut, but that drill sergeant hooked me up, and I did a PT test for the SOCOM recruiting, and I got my packet ready, and he pushed me right over to the X-ray program. So I bypassed it all and went straight into the course from there. Or selection, I should say.
Dude, yeah. So engineering is one of the shorter selections there. So you were on a team right in the middle when it started getting really nasty.
You ain't lying. So that's looking back, it was a blessing and a curse, right? Like I jumped right into the fight as soon as I got to group. Within 2 weeks, my company and my team, my eventual team, had already been deployed. So I showed up to Rear D, and it was like a ghost town. And I remember the Rear D first sergeant at the time was like, "Hey man, you got 2 choices. You can either go to Ranger School or you can go deploy." And I was like, "Well, I joined this organization to deploy. I want both. but I'd like to deploy. So within 2 weeks, I was throwing my crap in storage and heading out to Iraq. So yeah,
What was
it
your
was
rank at this time? It was been
it
like a
was
PFC.
there was no loss in or no lull in the fight for me. It was get there, get your bags packed, and head on over. So
Wow, man.
yeah.
Well, did they make you an E5 before you showed up, or you still a
Yeah,
what
I
are
was
you,
an E5, you know
E4?
how they used to do it, or I think they might still do it that way. I was going through the course, started as a E3, put on E4 halfway through, showed up to group with E5 and had no idea what the hell I was doing as an NCO, but, yeah,
That's
so
the way it goes, man.
yeah,
Dude,
we're the
E5 never had troops under you except for, in school,
No,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wear the rank you want, not the rank you deserve at the time, I guess.
No
Yeah.
kidding. Well, good on you, man. So you went overseas with Iraq or Afghanistan?
That was I went both. That one was Iraq. Right off the bat, it was right when we were in the heat of the Iraq trip. So that one went down to meet my eventual team 212 at the time down in Amara, so not too far from Basra. But that was my first trip right off the bat.
Okay, yeah,
So
so you're right out of the gun.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, outside of the training, you're a green thumb at the time. You think you're a badass and you think you're a grown man, going through the course and having these life experiences. And then you get to your first team in the heat of combat and you
Big
realize
comp.
you realize there's levels to this thing we call life. And I was I was lucky enough to be thrown on a team with a bunch of hitters, bunch of really experienced dudes who set me right. So everything hindsight's always 2020. I look back to this day and I thank God every day that I had those guys as my mentors and my seniors because they set me right. They definitely
Amen.
set me right.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, coming on your
Yeah.
first 18 is pretty intimidating enough,
Mhm.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just going back to the mid 80s, early 80s when I got on my first team. And it was
sure.
like, damn, man, these guys are. But to join your team in the middle of combat, it's
Man.
that's no picture.
Drinking from the fire hose. It's you sink or swim real quick and it kind of sets the tone of how you look at things for the rest of your career. But I remember just trying to stay afloat, day 2 getting in there, it wasn't one of those rotations where you're just kind of sitting back looking for work. We're in a pretty hairy spot in Amaro, taking a lot of IDF. So day 2 ever being stepping foot in country, we took some pretty significant IDF, IRAM, the improvised rocket assisted munitions that
Mhm.
um, pretty big deal back then what they used to do in those areas. But uh, rocked our camp, killed one of our terps, destroyed half the fob we were on, and I remember, you know, waking out of my chew to just eruption, everyone scattering around, hearing a bunch of stuff outside. So I walk out, everyone's getting at it, priorities of work, getting started on what they need to do. And I remember my warrant at the time's looking at me. And once everything settled, he was like, "All right, we got to get the fucking 1, 2, 3. We got to figure out where all of our equipment is, get accountability, see what our losses are." And I just remember looking at him like, "What the hell is a 1, 2, 3?" I was like, 4, 5, 6. What's a 1, 2, 3? And he was like, "Aren't you a Charlie?" I was like, "Yeah, they don't teach you that shit in the course." So that was like my first learning curve of I need to figure out real quick what my responsibilities are out here in combat. So um,
Dang. Yeah,
yeah, just
that's pretty tough for a young man to be chucked in that situation, dude, and then,
yeah.
expect to thrive. I mean, cripes, you didn't even know how to tape a weapon up or anything, man. I mean, you literally just rolled out of the Q course. Good
Yeah,
on you, man.
you revert back or following your training, which, as we all know, it's phenomenal training, but it can only get you so far. You got to put that training to test and put it into real life. And again, it's just the
What you
perfect
learn on a
storm
Q what you
of
learn in
having
a
the
Q
right.
course is nothing what you do on AT, man.
No, that's the joke
The
now.
equipment works, that's about it.
You're yeah, you come out of there as a Charlie. You go through all that training, and you're like, oh, I got all the tools to have a successful career. And the first thing you experience when you get to an actual team, you're not prepared in the slightest. Um, but it all comes together in the end. It's
Yeah, no, you put your head down, man. You sucked it up, man. Good on you,
yeah.
dude. So that was your first tour. Were you in 10th group at that time?
Yeah, so I just showed up to 10th group, and then I was in ACO 210 when I
Okay.
showed up. So I met my team in country. I flew into Bagram and spent a couple weeks there, or Baghdad, sorry. Flew into Baghdad, spent a couple weeks there, and then they flew me down to Amar to meet my team 212. And
Okay.
then from that point on, it was just holding on and learning from what I consider the best. So
And you retired out of 10th group too, right?
yeah, well, I'm technically currently still retiring, so I should be out this year sometime. But I'm unofficially tired. I've passed the VA process, and now I'm just waiting for that final date. But
Good. Good
yeah.
on you, man. So did you leave 10th group at all?
No, outside of going back to SWIC, I went, back to SWIC to be an instructor at the SEER course there for 3 years and then right back
Ha,
in the
ha.
field here, so
FTD or RTL?
the RTL, yeah, I was a role player out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was Captain on Bacalao from 1987 to 1990,
Oh,
smacking
man,
the heck out.
it's a diamond in the rough, I'll tell you. There's everyone's afraid to get SWIC'd, and of course, in the middle of the war, you go kicking and screaming, but you make the best of it, and, it made me a better soldier, made me a better leader as I progressed throughout this career, and that was one of the better spots to be out there at the RTL, being in SEER
Dude,
instructor. Yeah, I loved it.
yeah. Yeah, I did too, man. I got a lot of schools out of it because everybody was just on they were homesteading, nobody wanted to do anything.
Yeah,
I was like, "Where do you wanna go?" Like,
you ain't lying. I mean, you know how it is when you're deploying back to back to back. I mean, early on in my career, they didn't do the 6 months on, 18 months off. We had 9, 10-month deployments, and you're back for 6, 7 months, and you're right back into it. So there wasn't a lot of
yeah.
opportunities for schools outside of, if you're on a dive team, you got to get that dive bubble. But other than that, you're going right back at it. So SWIC was the first opportunity for me to start, kind of soaking up some of those schools. That's where I got Jump Master, Dive Soup, Halo, a bunch of other schools out there. So it was a good opportunity.
Which, did you go to the 82nd Jump Master School?
No, they ran a SOCOM Jump Master there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it worked out pretty good. So we
Yeah.
didn't have to memorize. We didn't have to memorize all of pre-jump, but they still had
Dude,
some standards.
I was in SWIC, and they said, "Hey, I got knocked out," nobody wanted to go to dive school, everybody wanted to go to Halo school, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, got those done, but at the end, but then, Jump Master, they're like, "You wanna go Jump Master, man? He's second run school every other week." I'm like, "What?" I was the
Yeah.
only green beret in that goddamn school, and they messed with me
Good
unmercifully,
on
man.
you, man. I don't know how it would have been if I went through.
Oh, we all flunked. The whole class flunked, man. We all made it on the first retest, but we all flunked the initial,
Oh, of course.
the initial test, dude. It was
Yeah,
great. They're
I think
nuts about
there's 1 to 2 guys in the whole class who get on the first one, the rest of you are coming in
it. Yeah,
for round 2 and
nuts.
3.
Wow, man. So, dude, you've been a 10th group, man, long, long time, man. And
Yeah. Yeah, I was lucky enough to spend outside of my SWIC rotation, spend my whole career here, in 10th Maine. Never made it out to Germany. I had the desire to go out to 110. I made 8 right before I was gonna go out there. I was a senior 7 on a team, and I was looking at, changing some things up, and I was like, I'll volunteer for 110, but then, luck had it to where I made 8 that year, so I ended up taking a team shortly after, but
wow, man.
it's been
Yeah,
a
I
good
mean,
ride.
so you have 8 combat deployments right now, combat and
Not
contingency
all
deployments.
combat. I have, 5 of combat deployments within Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, and then the rest of them are Ukraine, in support of the Ukraine conflict, and then some other contingency stuff, but, those are more operational, not combat. So
So talk to our audience a little bit about, combat and training. Like, we're focused here on repetitive brain trauma, right?
mhm,
Flash exposure, and we try to get folks to understand the impact of what we go through when we're training.
mhm,
And, you already mentioned being blowed up. I mean, you just got in country, and all of a sudden this indirect fire comes running in. That's all blast exposure, right? And those are
sure.
big bombs. I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah.
want to tell IRAM, those like Scud missiles and stuff, right?
Yeah, man. So the IRAMs, they're improvised rocket assisted munitions. So the way I like to explain it is if you imagine a 55-gallon barrel filled with C4 and a bunch of blasting caps in there, then you tie that bad boy off to a rocket, and then launch it and hope that thing lands somewhere in proximity of who you're trying to hit. That's what it is. It's a big boon.
A
So
big boom.
that thing packs a punch. That was my first real exposure, like what real IDF looks like, or feels like. But I
Yeah,
mean,
no doubt.
a lot of
Big
things
blast.
I overlooked throughout the training and leading up to this career was all the the micro impact or micro TBIs and all those things you go through in training, specifically on the engineer side, right? As a Charlie, almost every day as you're training, you're either building, constructing, or pulling charges every day. And those things add up. You might not feel it every time you pull that charge, but you're gonna feel the compounding effects of that as you continue throughout your career. Um, but that, and then back then we kind of put safety to the whim a little bit, right? Like you want to be close to that door. You're not, always looking at your minimum safe distance and having barriers between you and the explosion. You want to be that first one in the door, right? So
Yeah.
that pride gets a hold of you and you start chasing charges or you start creeping on those charges, and takes a toll on you over time. So
And then chucking more charges as you go.
yeah, you're never, as a Charlie, you're never short of them. That's
Yeah.
for
No,
sure.
I mean, that's part of it too, is that I mean, so during those years, right? So you joined in 2005, you're probably on a team in 2006, right? That's when it started to get stupid ugly.
Yeah.
Then you go all the way through, the end of the wars, whatever, and you keep going. Um, talk to us about some of the op tempo of these blasts, right? I mean, because you're either in combat or you're training for combat.
Yep.
So I mean, pretty much nonstop.
Yeah, it's nonstop. Like you said, the really, especially during the GWOT, when you're training for actual combat, you know, back here, you're out at the range, you're simulating it, right? You're building charges every day. You're blowing the doors for the assault team. You're building cache charges, so the big booms. I mean, there's not a week that goes by. I'd say on average 2 to 3 times a week, you're out there at a demo range, taking the concussion of the charge at some capacity. Um, on top of using heavy weapons as well, so you have the concussions of um, the Mob Deuces and some of the bigger caliber weapon systems out there, and the Mark 19s, and and then you're uh, simulating and going out and throwing grenades, and so every day there's some sort of influx of concussive blast, and that's just in training, and then that can ramp up while you're actually in combat, to where you're doing that every night. So there's really not a break that your body takes during those peak times throughout the war.
And during this time, did you ever have a major impact where you thought you might have had, like, let's say, a concussion, like loss of consciousness or anything like that, get dizzy or anything like that?
So there was a handful during training, right? Some of them were some jumps. Anyone who's airborne qualified has been on a couple bad jumps where you lose some of those glimpses of reality and you start piecing all together. And like, what the hell just happened? So there's a couple jumps there. There's a couple blasts going through some CQB training where you're popping off charges inside of confined spaces, and it sets you back and you feel like your body's catching up to your mind a little bit. But the most significant one for me was in 2019 on a trip in Afghanistan. I was assault cell leader on Assault 1, and we got in a pretty hairy situation where we're in a pretty big troops in contact, a tick, and I walked into a house to go clear a house. As soon as I walked in, they clacked it off, and walked right into an H-bit houseborne IED, and uh, I woke up, who knows where, how many 20, 30 minutes later with body parts laying on me, not knowing what the hell happened. So that was kind of the a significant changing point in my life, that I could notice right off the bat within, months later, like I'm a different person, just a different
Mm.
person from that one.
Yeah, I mean, let's dial into that a little bit. I mean, because you're talking 2019. Okay, so you've
Mhm.
got 13 years at least on teams, right? Continuous
Right.
combat exposure, a little bit of SWIC time, got it, but you got to do that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so and after this one, what did you start noticing that was different, or do you think it was kind of creeping up a little bit, and this one just kind of took it over the edge?
Yeah. I think it's a culmination of all of it, right? Like, without a doubt, it was creeping. I mean, there's little changes as you look back, there's little changes. The great The great reminder of that is your loved ones, your wife, your closest friends and family. They'll tell you, you know, you're a little different here and there after some trips and training, but after that one significantly, um, I could see to myself. Sometimes you don't want to admit it because we still had fighting left to do. We still had combat left, and I was still operational on a team. So you look past some of it, or you try to convince yourself that that things aren't changing. But once you actually accept it and have some realization, you're like, man, I need to get some help. I've got some things that are messed up, both mentally and just psychologically. Like,
So you
there's
didn't have any
just
break. So you like woke up and you went right back into the fight. You didn't get a break or anything
no.
after
So
a while?
I woke up and I had broken bones in the face. I just
Ah,
been knocked out for, who knows how long. Had no idea where I was. I was throwing up on myself. I had one of my teammates come pull me out and carry me to a CCP, and I was still in and out, going in and out. I have small memories of pieces of all this. I haven't really been able to piece it all together outside of like teammates and people telling me kind of what happened, big picture. But they ended up medevacing me on that one, and then flew me back to a roll two to get some help. So um, ended up flying home because 2 weeks later, my first son was born. So my one of the docs that works with us at 10th Group did a really good job in helping get me out of care overseas and flying me home so I could see my son born. But uh,
ah, gosh.
yeah, it was just a culmination of a lot of things going on in life. I ended up flying back a little over a month later because that was a rough trip. We lost, four of my best friends during that trip and some absolute giants and legends within our organization. And, you kind of have some of that survivor's guilt and some of that, I was a leader on that ODA. I got to get back and get in the fight. Looking back now, that was not the right choice to make. I can definitively say I should have stayed back and healed a little bit more, and also, supported the wife during the birth of our first child. But I went back and jumped right back into it, and that definitely didn't help things in the long run.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, I bet. I mean, it's the let's talk about stigma a little bit.
mhm.
Okay, so we all know. I mean, I didn't have my troubles until my late 50s, early 60s when all
Sure,
the crazy stuff I did and playing, all army rugby and semi-pro stuff caught up with me, and I didn't want to talk about it. I
right,
mean, I was crying, panic attacks, all this stuff. I know girl, I can eat this up. Still it started eating me up.
sure.
Talk about this. What made you, start, you know, opening up about
Mhm.
what your struggles with so that, you could start,
Yeah,
heading on the way back up.
yeah, sure. So early on, when you're young in the game, you feel like you have to carry this outside persona that, nothing can get past your armor. You're indestructible. You don't want to show weakness in terms of your vulnerability and things that are happening. Um, but as you get older and you're a leader, you start seeing that that's deteriorating you as a person. It's deteriorating you as a leader, and you can see that you're teaching that younger generation the same thing, like that they need to hide all their emotions. They need to hide their vulnerabilities. They need to bury that deep down. I think for me, really the catalyst was coming home and seeing my wife and my kid. Um, and just staring at them and looking her in the eye and being like, I need to make a change. I need to change some things personally. I need to get some help so I can be a better father. I can be a better husband. I can be a better person. Um, and then couple that with losing the only mentors and people I considered family in combat. I had to carry on their legacy, and you cannot carry on their legacy if you are not good yourself. The last thing I want to do is say their name every day and talk about what a great influence they are, but then not live by that example. Um,
Mm.
so it was just the perfect storm of I got to be this guy. I got to be the right man for myself. Got to be the right father for my kid, the right husband, for my wife, and then the flag bearer for this generation that just gave their all for us. So I think that was kind of the beginning of the next stage in life.
That's a big step, man. And, so was the military supportive? I know, I mean, I don't know where things have gone. And I know there's a lot of support mechanisms nowadays that didn't
Sure.
exist in my day. So
Sure. The military absolutely supportive. My issue is we have so many resources out there that I don't think a lot of them are checked or spot checked all the time or validated. And, we have all these great resources in the military, but a lot of it's almost like a flyer. Call this number if you need some help. Call or go to this website and sign up for this program or whatever. But honestly, the best resources and the best treatment I have been outside of the military. And that's not a hit on the military. It's just I've gotten better care or more personable care outside of the military. The military supported it 100% of the way. It just wasn't afforded by the military per se.
and I think the challenges for the military are much like the challenges that we have with the VA for our veteran community right now is that
Hmm.
all they have are drugs and therapy. They
Exactly.
can't prescribe anything, right? They
Sure.
even if they knew of something, I mean, I know there's a little bit of ketamine going on right now, which
Sure.
back then could have helped you out a lot, probably.
Yep. Yeah.
Stellate ganglion blocks. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff out there that can help our military, but they don't have access to it. And then of course,
Right.
if they refer it to you, they kind of admit that they aren't doing the right thing, all that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. I mean, there's to your point. There's a lot of roadblocks. There's a lot of restraints, and there's great people who understand the benefits of this stuff. They're just constrained by the military structure and what we're allowed to do. But thank God there's so many great resources and programs outside that are, standing by waiting to pick up and take off where the military can't technically do right now. So,
let me ask you a question. When you were struggling,
mhm.
and they said, okay, because when you're struggling, the thing is, you're obviously struggling. When you say, hey, I'm having problems, well, you're having problems.
Yeah.
Did anybody say that it could have been your brain health that was causing the problem, or are they just targeting the symptoms like the anger, whatever they were, right? The
Yeah.
impulsivity, depression, anxiety, grief, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
I mean, after losing four of your buds too, man, grief's all in there too, right? So, and
Mhm.
then guilt and shame and all this other stuff that just piles on.
Yeah.
So, what was the initial like the approach to helping you get back on your feet?
Honestly, it's self-recognition and teammates and my wife were really the identifiers of like there's something more than the byproduct of what's actually happening here. The military, you when everyone's operational, we're focused on, hey, can this individual perform the task at hand to the level we need them to do it today? They're not necessarily focused on the individual and all the intricacies and problems he has or may have, and fixing that right then and there. And again, this isn't a hit on the military. They're going 1,000 miles an hour and they don't have time to stop for every single individual. So it's on us to identify that. But I honestly didn't know. I just saw all these other byproducts of like the anger was there, the substance abuse was there, the change in demeanor and emotion was there. All of it was there, but I never really stopped to think like, hey, this might be byproducts of a more significant or a bigger issue, right? It's clear as day to me now, which is crazy, right? Once you
Yeah.
actually take the step to better yourself and acknowledge it, it's clear as day to me. But back then, it would have never led me to, hey, here's the culprit. Let's fix this. Let's stop
Mm.
band-aiding uh,
Right.
product, right?
No, I mean, that's a huge issue with this is that, out of most of these programs that are out there, almost all of them are completely unaware that the challenges they're seeing in our veteran population, they're not aware that it could be connected to what 13 years of blast exposure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
got a problem here.
Yeah.
It's like, God dang. And
Yeah.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. So now you
That's
see it
it.
everywhere, right?
That's it. That is 100% it. It's not rocket science, but once you sit down with someone and they start asking you questions out loud and you start answering out loud, you're like, dear God, yeah, I guess I've been taking this to the face for the last, better half of 20 years. Like it makes perfect sense. But when you're operational, you just have a
Yeah.
one-track mind. Everything else is just off to the side. It's like, is it
Oh,
gonna
dude.
benefit me if I stop to think about this? No. The mission's that way, so I'm gonna keep charging that way. Um,
Yeah,
but
I mean, we'll do anything to stay on that A team, bro. I
you ain't
mean, I
lying.
know. I know.
Yeah.
You'll do but so at what point did somebody say, "Hey, we gotta start working on your brain, dude."
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Well, my wife tried telling me quite a bit, and I just, "Hey, you're stuck with
What do
me.
you know?
You're gonna ride this out with me," and she knew before anyone else, right? And they oftentimes always do. But I mean, I hit the lowest point in my life. It was after that 2019 trip. I lost some of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. That in and of itself takes a huge toll on you. The blast itself, one of the most significant injuries I've received, happened that year as well. The depression, anxiety, anger, all that just weighed heavy on me to where I got to the point where I hit rock bottom, right? Like I was down here sitting in front of my safe, the story as old as time with guys like us, and just contemplating, what's next for me. How could I be, this great team guy in combat and needed and uh have worth in that aspect, but then I come home and everything I do is wrong. Society doesn't accept me. I'm always angry. I'm doing the wrong thing. I'm not reacting the right way. I have no worth. I'm not benefiting anything or anyone around me. At least that's what I thought in my head, right? On
Mhm.
top of having some of the physical effects as well, with the memory loss and the vision and all sorts of other things, it all just kind of compounded to where, uh, again, I bring up my wife a lot, but she's my saving grace. She came down one day and, I was at the lowest point in my life, and she's like, "Hey, it's now or never." She's like, "Let me make a phone call." So she made the phone call for me. Um, and she called the right person, which set everything into effect to get me on the path to where I am today. So,
Nice, nice. And then during that time, what were some of the treatments that helped you the most? Like, what did you go through that really had that profound impact, or that you knew, "Hey, man, I'm on my way. I can get back," right? Because
yep.
I'm feeling better, you know?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, therapy.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
um, I think that is, if I could go back and talk to 21-year-old Colin, I'd say start therapy now. Not even if you don't have significant issues to deal with, but maintenance, just straight up maintenance to help prep you and take care of yourself mentally throughout everything you're about to endure in life. Um, but it helped me kind of dissect what root problems were. Helped me to acknowledge things. It it helped my relationship at the time, but on top of that, getting into the right program. So like getting accepted into the Marcus Institute for Brain Health, and then doing some of the treatments that they had administered for me there. It suggested I do. So some of the hyperbaric chamber treatment was amazing. MDMR was great. Some of these, then getting on the right meds. There's like a concoction of things that helped immediately that I'd been avoiding for such a long time.
Mm, okay. Yeah, and that's, we'll have a conversation after this show a little bit. We'll
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit more. But, that and that's a great start, 'cause the Marcus Institute does a great job with our veterans, man, trying to help them find their way and get them moving because,
Yeah,
you you look at all that trauma that, that you've gone through, right? And then that, once we're out, we shouldn't have to go through it
sure,
anymore, right? We got
sure.
enough things to do, man. I mean, transition is not a lot of fun, for a lot of guys, man. It's a scary time, leaving the army. I've talked to colonels and generals, man. I got a buddy of mine, he's a 4-star right now. He's scared of getting out, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's like, yeah, it's just not, it is the biggest jump we make, and especially with a family, man, it's hard. So,
yeah. You know, I
we need to keep our boys together,
I definitely am blessed right now to have kind of recognize some of the issues prior to starting transition, because I do feel like it put me in a great mental position to transition. Yeah, it's scary, and yeah, there's a lot of obstacles and hurdles that are still to come, but I feel like I came into this prepared as well as I could be, just by recognition of looking in myself and seeing what issues I have and what I need to fix or work on, and then also getting the help I needed. I think it set me straight to where I can actually enter this stage in my life and my career appropriately.
Well, I mean, you went back and you performed. You were a team sergeant for 3 years.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
so I mean, god dang, something went right. I mean, you
yeah.
go from
Right.
the bottom, and next thing you know, you're doing the best job in the United States Army,
That's right. There's no better
and
job
thank
than being
God
a
you
teacher.
got 3 years, man. I couldn't get my team sergeants more than two, and I was so upset. They just kept rotating them in, man. I'm
Yeah,
like, gosh darn,
yeah.
I don't
Fighting
like that.
tooth and
So
nail for that third year, and then eventually you're old news and you got to go. But
yeah, we got
best
too
time of
many
my life. I'll say
UEHs.
that.
It is, dude. Man, that is. What kind of did you have? Like did you have a specialty team, a Halo
Yeah, I
Scuba
was a
team?
dive team, team sergeant.
Ah,
Yeah,
I don't like you anymore, man. I never
yeah.
got to be on
Nothing
a
better
dive
than
team.
that. Yeah,
With
it's
all that
you know,
pain.
I started this career and didn't know anything about diving, and didn't know anything about dive school. I was naive. Now everyone knows all the ins and outs of all the schools, but when I was going through the Q course back then, all you cared about was getting to combat. So I showed up and had the opportunity to go to a dive team and found out real quick that it's not as easy as just getting your feet wet. So,
Can't breathe water.
yeah, the reality
Yeah.
is I just wanted to be with those guys on that team. So I was going to do whatever it took to get there. I'm from Nebraska. I didn't grow up around the water or even knew how to swim, but
A lot of
I had
ocean
some
there, man.
grit and some determination, and it all worked out.
Oh,
So,
need that, man. Yeah, it was funny. I was in Key West last year with my wife, and we just went down there for a weekend. I said, "Hey, been there?" She goes, "No, I said, let's go." And we went out to the dive school, and the gate was open, so we drove in,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
walking around the building because you get the class photos, right? We all
yep,
got our class photo, and I was looking for mine because a couple of my old buddies said they had found it. And there's a whole story there. I'll tell you
yeah,
someday.
yeah.
I got busted. And the Z7 company goes, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." I was kind of nobody stopped us. I was just, "Hey,
Sure.
honey, let's go find me." Anyway, they kicked us out. But on the way out, I looked at that pool. I said, "Is that the same pool?" He goes, "Yeah, it's been around." I said, "I was the first class in that thing. I hated
That's
that pool,
awesome.
man. I'm training in Lee Fieldhouse in Fort Bragg, and I go from that little tiny bathtub to that monster lake, and I
Oh
hated
man.
it, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
But being a dive guy in 10th group, man, cracking ice and all that stuff, that ain't no fun, man.
Yeah,
We
the
got
cold weather
Army.
divers, everyone laughs when they're like, you're we have divers here in Colorado. I'm like, yeah, I mean, technically every dive we do is an advanced dive. It's all altitude diving, but you got the right
Absolutely.
equipment, and ice diving or cold weather diving can be fun. But it's an opportunity. The selling point for these young kids to go to dive school is like, hey, it's an opportunity to have awesome J sets, go to great places. You're always on a
The
beach.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just make sure you pack your suntan
Oh,
lotion and your UDTs and you're good to go.
and and you have to requal. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
only one place to
The
requal. We
famous
got to
the
go
famous requal,
the
how
famous
much.
requal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been a part of those little jumps down there at Key West and
Oh, man.
into the water from Fort Bragg or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to have fun, man. Well, I mean,
That's
dude,
right.
you've made the most of it. I mean,
There's
gosh
perks
darn,
to the
man, you've done
jobs for
great.
sure.
Yeah, you're set up for success, man.
Yeah.
I think you're doing great. Um, what would I mean? I was on General Fenton's health team,
Mm.
for brain stuff, and I used to just keep posted on the veteran side, which you're getting ready to be one of us now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you think the military could do for blast exposure to mitigate some of the? I mean, we got to be lethal, right? We got to be
Mhm.
badasses. What can we do to kind of, in your mind, coming right out right now? What do you think we could do to kind of minimize some of the exposure that you went through? They used to limit AT4s, stuff like that. I mean, you got any thoughts on how we? It's not about making shit safer, pardon my French. It's more about
Yeah.
making it less impactful on these on our brains because you can
Right.
only take so much of it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think to your point, like the job in and of itself is dangerous. You're already going to expose yourself to risk. So I'd be naive or out of place to sit here and say, here's what we need to do to make sure every time you're around a blast it's going to be 100% safe. It is what it is. We sign
No,
up for this
yeah.
job for a reason, right? But what I do think we can do is help take care of the guys post doing their job, and not just after their career, but after events. So like when you're done with training, let's inject some of this better treatment that they have outside of the military. Let's look at things holistically. Let's look at things like there's a plethora of things that are science backed that can absolutely help an individual or help things to culminate over time if you inject it after the point of contact. So,
Mhm.
you get done with a heavy week of breaching or get done with a heavy week of clacking off AT4s or Carl G's, like they should be going right into some sort of treatment protocol or some sort of like PT or therapy to help with the residual effects of that. I mean, some of the stuff isn't even that crazy. Like put a hyperbaric chamber in the company,
Right. Yep.
and have guys go sit in that for an hour every couple days. I mean,
It does.
that's tried and true. It helps me. I mean, part of it
Mhm.
is it's meditating for me to sit in there, but there's science behind, pressure treatment. Like there's science behind going in hyperbaric chambers and using it as treatment. That's low cost, low impact on the surgeon itself, but helped tenfold for the individual that's exposed to these blasts on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, there's little things we can do that have massive effects that don't take a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is total aggregate exposure. I mean, look,
Mhm.
once you fire an AT4, you get halfway. You don't need to fire 40 of them in a week, right? I
No.
mean, there's always the pleasure of not feeling your hands, right, or
Yeah.
whatever. But we have to understand that this stuff is dangerous, and when I say dangerous, it has an impact on us. So
Yep.
just like we used to go around with nuclear detectors looking for now we know that nuclear material kind of passes through us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have to they have to mitigate some of it, and
Mhm.
same thing, you can't be a range safety officer for every class for every day. And
Yep.
so I think rotating jobs, you don't have to leave the teams at all. But
Right.
we do have to look at, individuals like yourself. You represent, and I would say honestly, a majority of the people leaving special operations that have been in an operational role since 9/11. Okay. That's
Mhm.
it. All right. Because your story is told over and over and over and over again. So that was my point. I stood up in front of the general and I told everybody, I said, look, when I signed up to be a Green Beret, I knew I was going to retire broke. I knew I
Yeah.
was going to have busted bones, busted brains, whatever. But I knew the VA was going to take care of me. But we
Right.
didn't know about repetitive blast exposure. Right now, the VA can't take care of you when you get out. That's why you made the statement about these fantastic organizations that have all these treatment programs.
Sure.
And that's part of what we owe you, right, is to take the lessons learned that we have right now and not force, but get the VA to understand that we have a problem and this is what we need to do because infantrymen, they get dinged up, but they don't get dinged up to the point we have access to too much
Right.
craziness, right? I mean, you're in the shoot house, you're on the
Yeah.
range, whatever, right? But they still get impacted. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But we do have an issue here that we need to work on to mitigate this exposure and
Yeah.
do the best we can. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, good.
and as someone who's going through the BA process right now, like my personal experience has been great so far. I don't really have much to say negatively about the process. I think for me, turns out if you're actually screwed up, they're going to take care of you, um, for the most part. But with that, I will say we shouldn't be in a position with careers like we've had to have to fight for, the treatment that you need or the coverage or, you know, uh, resources that they have. You shouldn't have to fight for that, over explain to so many people on why you need this. Like, look at the guy's career. Look what he's been through. Look at everything he's been exposed to. Right off the bat, it should already be set in stone. I'm not talking about just me. I'm talking about anyone who's been in this position or experienced this type of career. It shouldn't be this hard uh, to advocate on behalf of yourself and the organization to get what you need at the end of it. So
The issue is getting the VA to recognize it. Have they asked you about brain health or repetitive blast exposure at all during your time there? All right. This
Yeah.
is something else that we'll talk about because I ended up educating the VA, and I will give you what's called a GBEV,
Mhm.
and which is a form that SOCOM developed to calculate your blast exposure. You've got your medical records, you've got your documentation. There is, even though they don't ask the question, there is
Mhm.
absolutely no problem with you saying, "Hey, I've got, I want to claim disability for my brain, and this is why." And if they
Right.
don't give you that, you call me back, all right? Because
Yeah.
they should. It's part, and this is what we're running into, Colin, out there is that the VA is completely uneducated on repetitive blast exposure and the impacts to include mental illness. All right.
Mhm.
And the fact that you've already had, challenges, you've had exposure, you've got the MOS, you've got the longevity, the correlation between, the fact that your body's been impacted in any way, or whether it's chips on the shoulder, and they chips in the elbow, scars, bullet wounds, or damage to the brain needs to be accounted for by the VA and properly treated,
Right.
which they are not doing well right now.
Right.
And I'm not knocking the VA. I'm saying
No, I hear you.
they've got their own their own handcuffs, but I am pretty pissed that they're not moving. And that's my job out here. But at the same time, they should be asking you these questions. And when they don't, then you tell them, this is what I've been through, this is what I know, and this is what you need to be looking at. And if they say, well, we don't look at that stuff, then you come find us because we'll make sure that they look at it for you. Because
No, absolutely.
it's just it's what we're trying to change. And to hear that they have not asked you about that is still it's very distressing because we've been screaming out here for 4 years. And so our job is to educate you and every other veteran that's listening to this thing, say, look, if you can relate to Colin's story, then and the VA's not asking these questions, you need to tell them about what you've been through. And that's what I had to do. I didn't even need any disability. I didn't want it. And they
Right.
came back with a pile of it. And all he asked me, he says, you got any scars? And I said, come look at
Yeah.
my eyebrows. He's like, what the hell have you been doing? I said, dude, I played all Army rugby for 8 years. And I got shot in the face at the 10th group shooting facility when one
Oh,
of my ding dongs missed a bullet trap, bullet sheared. I was up on the catwalk. I
yeah.
was like, yeah, we had to set up. We set that thing up, the Cefout course back in the day. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
nah, man.
No, that's
Yeah.
a great point,
No,
though. Like going through the process, they're over there measuring all your scars. Like, how do you do that up here? How do you measure? How do you, quantify the size of scars up here? Like, if that seems so archaic, if that's the system and the process that we're doing to, validate or determine someone's disability. It's like, well, let
yeah,
me see what the size of the scar is when you got your hand surgery. It's like, okay,
yeah.
that doesn't even
It's
tell the story, man. So
no, and actually, they're actually talking about Purple Hearts right now for
yeah,
these kind of injuries. I mean, I don't know what the difference is between taking a bullet to the shoulder and taking multiple blasts. And some people are pro or con out there, it doesn't
yeah,
care. But we also have a whole bunch of guys that are not here anymore because they didn't stick around. And I
yeah,
think some recognition would do them and their families a lot of good. But
a hundred
uh
percent. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Nah, man.
yeah, but one of my best friends, unfortunately took his life not too long ago, and that's a byproduct of war. I mean, that is an injury of war. Everything that happened up here and everything that got to the point where he couldn't handle anymore. He wasn't like that before. You know what I mean?
Most of our guys out there, and you've reached it. I've been through the initial parts of it myself. I had to put my head back together. But it's all from blast, dude. It's all
Yeah,
from blast. Or if you played football up through high school, and now you got all that's coming in with you to the Army,
yeah,
right? You don't see that shit, right? And so then you got the octagon of 10th group. You guys slam each other around,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then you got blast. You got all this trauma, and we think that it doesn't have any impact. I mean, we thought this for 100 years. We can just beat each other in the head. We'll be fine. You got a skull. It
yeah,
don't
yeah,
it don't help us. So
yeah.
now's the time that if we do know it, that we got to take it to the VA, and make them give you what you deserve. So
I
I can't
completely agree. Yeah, yeah.
can't thank you enough for your service, man. It's
No,
an
I
amazing
appreciate it.
journey. Oh, and tell us, I think you got honored at the Market Institute at the gala, right?
Yeah, it was a awesome experience, man. I love that organization. Great people, great.
Tell us about that a little bit. A lot of people don't know what they do.
So the Marcus Institute for Behavioral Health, right? So it's a one-stop shop to really identify the problems you have with brain health, right, and injuries. And then they give you a comprehensive, essentially a check or appointments through neuro, through behavioral health, through PT, through everything from top to bottom of what could have gone wrong based off of your medical records and your experience. They tailor it to you, and then they build you a tailored program on how to give you the tools, techniques to get better, right? Whether it's medication, whether it's PT, whether it's mental health, all these things. They package it all up and then give you all the tools you need to make yourself better. It was the first time in my journey of recovery that I had a subject matter expert on the other side of the table explaining to me, here's why you feel this way, and here's what you need to do about it. Again, some of the stuff I just needed to be told, right? And these people gave me the why is this happening to me, and then on top of that, they gave me here's what you can do to fix it. And then the continued care, I think, is one of the biggest things that this organization does. Is you don't just leave after 3 weeks of their intensive outpatient treatment. They call you up and they check on you and they revamp things if things aren't working. They continue to take care of you. I think that is probably the biggest thing that sets them and organizations like them apart from others is they understand that this isn't just you come in and you get fixed. This is a lifelong issue you're going to have to deal with. And here are the tools that you can use to help you deal with it appropriately. And then they tweak it as you need it. But yeah, I was able to go to the gala and be lucky enough to be the keynote speaker there. And it was a great opportunity, one, to have a platform to talk to people from this perspective of the significance of brain injuries and then what brain health means in order to combat that. So,
Oh, excellent. I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad you were honored, and I want to thank you for your service. And I know you don't have a social media platform yet, or you haven't started a business, but what's next for Colin Lightfoot? Talk a little bit about what you got planned, man. You
Yeah,
got a
so I
beautiful
actually
wife, 2
did.
boys.
Yeah, I did just start a business this year, which is great, and we're slowly trying to build that social media presence. Business has been great. It's called Colorado Custom Design LLC. So we do screen
Okay.
print, embroidery, and engraving. It's taken off. We're blessed to have a demographic and a platform that has been utilizing us, and things have been great. So that's kind of what I'm gonna be doing in the foreseeable future, as long as that continues to progress. Biggest thing, like you mentioned before, is just being here for the family. My kids
Uh,
are still young, so it's nice to be able to close out this chapter in my life and essentially be a present father,
dude,
and a loyal
you'll
husband.
be.
So those are priority number one, and then hopefully incentivized by this business, number two. So
Nah, great, man. Yeah, be a dad, man.
yeah,
It's been my best title out of all the
yeah,
crap I've done in my life, man. Being called dad is just
yeah.
amazing, dude.
It's pretty easy to be vulnerable and open when you're doing it for your kids because nothing
Ah,
else matters. You know what I mean?
nah,
Nothing else.
dude.
I
Yep.
know who I am. So it's just a blessing to be a present dad for these kids every day.
Yeah, good. And then I'll educate all about them contact sports and which sports to play because there's a
That's
bunch of
right.
them you don't want your boys playing. But no, cannot thank you about it. And maybe we'll get some of our next t-shirts from the company ordered to
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
man. I'll get your website. Do you have a website? What's
We
the
do.
name of the
We
website?
do. www.coloradocustomdesignllc.com. Yeah, we got Instagram,
Nice.
Facebook, website. We're up and running full fledged. So whatever you want, we got it. We'll help you brand.
All right, man, dude. I can use some branding right now. I got a
Got you.
CEO coming in, man. I can need all the branding help I get.
I
Well,
got you.
Colin, thank you so much for sharing your story with you, man.
Yeah, no, I
With us.
appreciate it again. It was a privilege, honor to be on the show, and thank you very much.
Yep, your honor, your service, man. We cannot thank you enough for what you've done for this country, and we will work diligently as as a society to make sure that you and everybody else has been through the gauntlet that you've had to keep this country in one piece gets the support you deserve. So thank you so much, and
Appreciate it, brother.
good talking
Likewise.
to another Green Beret, man.
That's right. Always a pleasure.
All right. All right, folks. Well, another awesome episode of Broken Brains, man. Really if you get a chance, like it, share it, Send it out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want. X, I don't care. We're all over the place. Remember, 10th of March, big mismatched socks for Mac Day. Our son was colorblind. He could never match his socks. So we have thousands of people that take pictures of their mismatched feet and send them in on Instagram, hit our Facebook site. Don't forget, go to the website. I just rewrote this entire book for parents. I got another 50 pages of new stuff because in 5 years since Mac left me, I've learned so much. It's going to be up on the website by the end of next month. PDF download. We're going to have it in Spanish for all you seventh groupers out there. It's going to be an audio book. So, we're going to have it out there, and we got the app, Head Smart app on Google and Apple Store. Get it, the only app with repetitive ed impact information on it. And we got the conference coming up in September, and we're going to announce those dates as well as our big gala or our big drink 'em up at the Army Navy game. Got a lot going on in 2026. Can't wait. I'm so happy we're starting season 2 on the show. But thank you all so much for listening. Cannot thank you enough for paying attention. The questions you're sending in are awesome. And take care of those kids. Remember, they only got one melon. So take care of it. So God bless you all. We'll see you next time on Broken Brains. Take care.